I'm reading the Twitter streams. I'm looking at this stuff, and I'm reading about people, oh yeah, feel the burn, and this. I got to tell you something. I'm looking out here. I am seeing a room full of the healthiest people I have ever seen in my entire life. Like, honestly, no, it's really intimidating, actually. I'm looking at all you people, and it's really making me reconsider, my cigar and scotch that I had for breakfast this morning. But you have cool stuff. You do cool things. You make a difference in people's lives every day. How cool is that? Honest to goodness. Imagine you're not selling shoes. You're not doing boring things. You're doing exciting things and living in an exciting environment every day. And people like to be part of that. So you have that huge advantage. Leverage it. Use it. Have fun with it. Ultimately, imagine if you could have an entire staff that looked like that, like every day when your members came in. How exciting would that be, right? I have never heard of anybody complaining that they don't want to go to their gym because everybody there is just way too excited and about being there. I think the best example I've ever seen of loyalty, of one person building loyalty happened a long time ago now. And it happened not too far from here, just around Disney World. You're all familiar with Disney World? You've all been there, right? Fun place. Well, we had gone there, so we live in Canada. And it's actually not a story about Disney World. It's a story about, a Waffle House. But we live in Canada, and I'd taken my wife, my 3 children, my brother and my sister. We said we're all going to go to Disney World. So we told the kids about 2 weeks ahead of time. You can imagine what they're like. Like, they're young kids. They're like, we're going to see Mickey. We're going to see Mickey. They're all pumped and excited. We're getting phone calls from the teachers saying, like, will you go already? Like, please, seriously. Anyway, the day finally comes. We all pile in the airplane. The kids are pumped, right? And you all know what this is like, right? We're going to see Mickey. They're pumped. So we gave them drugs and stuff, and they settled down a little bit. And anyway, around midnight, like 1 o'clock in the morning, we pull into the hotel where we're staying in the property, and then like 8 o'clock the next morning, 7:30, the kids wake up. And you all know, like, kids wake up differently than we do, don't they? Right? Where we wake up, we kind of go, we do this, right? Not kids, boy. They just go like, bink, right? All 3 of them at the same time. We're going to see Mickey. So we had to feed him or kill him. And so we all piled into this minivan. And we drove down International Boulevard, which is a road that goes not too far from the Disney property. And on that road is every hotel and restaurant chain that's ever been invented, because everybody wants a piece of Mickey Mouse. Right? You've all been there. You all know this, right? Everybody wants a piece of it. We don't know. So my brother just kind of randomly pulls into a parking lot. And there's like 3 or 4 restaurants in the parking lot. And one of them happened to be a Waffle House. And now, I've never been to a Waffle House before. Oddly enough, I know there's 1 million of them here, and I travel all the time, and yet I'd never been in one before. But we pull up, and we get into the parking lot. Now, you have to picture this now. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of us piling out of this car. And as we're walking towards the door, we have the adults with the grown-ups. We have the maps out of Disney World, because we're going to decide, right, where we're going to go and what we're going to do. So we're reading the maps and walking, and all of a sudden we get halfway across the parking lot, and we stop. We look up, and we realize there's a lineup outside of the door to the Waffle House. About like 8 people in line outside of this door of the Waffle House. So we stopped, and we did that sort of adult negotiating thing. Do you all do that? Like, I turned to my brother, I said, oh, there's a lineup. Do you want to stay, or do you want to go someplace else? Right? You all know what my brother said, right? I don't care. You do whatever you want to do is fine by me, right? He did that. Yeah. So we turned to my wife. What do you want to do? She says, no, you guys decide. I'm okay. You turn to his wife. Oh, no, I don't care. Right? Around and around and around we went. So 5 minutes go by. Finally, we decide, let's just go and stand in line at this restaurant. So there we go. So actually, we didn't decide that, and I lie like a rug, because we were actually going to go to a different restaurant, because that's when this vision appeared on the front doorstep of the Waffle House. I found out later her name was Luann. Luann was 150, 200 years old. Like, she was the oldest human being I have ever seen in my life. And she appeared on the front doorstep of this Waffle House with her hands on her hips like this and a look on her face like this. She said, "Now, don't y'all be thinking about leaving my restaurant." Honest to goodness. And we sort of turned around and said, "Pardon?" and she said, and all of a sudden this huge smile came over her face, like this giant, corners of her lips were going to meet in the back of her head kind of smile. And she said, "I can have you fed before you can bite into the nails. Now, y'all, come on. Y'all, come on. Well, what are we going to do, right?" So we walked towards her. As we're walking to the line, she starts eyeballing me, right? Of all people, she starts looking at me. And she says, "You, sir, you look like a coffee-drinking man to me." I said, "Yeah." She said, "Have I got a treat for you? It just so happens that not 15 feet from here, just inside those doors, I got me a pot of the blackest, the smoothest, the hottest coffee in the entire state of Florida. I got me an idea. Why don't me and you, we're going to go get you a cup of that coffee. And while we're doing that, we'll bring some coffees back to these other nice people. And while we're doing that, I'll just pass out some menus so everybody can decide what it is they're going to eat by the time they get in, because it's just going to be 6-8 minutes. What do you say?" Well, I speak for a living. I think pretty quickly on my feet. So I turned to her and I said, "Oh, okay." And so we go in and get the coffee, and she takes us back, and she's oohing and gooing and making a fuss over the kids. And just then, 3 people leave the restaurant, so the line moves about this far. Right? And she said, "Look at that line's moving already. I told you it's going to be 6-8 minutes. That's all it's going to be." It's already been 10, right? But she's having fun with that. And just then, as the line moved, we saw another car pulled into the parking lot with like 4 or 5 people popped out of that car, and they did the exact same thing we did. It was like deja vu. They got halfway into the parking lot. They stopped. You could see them looking on you exactly what they were talking about. And she turned on them like that. She said, "Now, don't y'all be thinking about leaving my restaurant." Honest to goodness. And off she went to get them. It was so exciting. Now, to make a long story longer, it took us about 15 minutes to get into the actual doors of the restaurant. Luann takes us to our table, and she said, "Have I got a treat for you?" She said, "Just so happens that you're going to be looked after by the best waitress in the entire state of Florida. Her name is May. Let me just get her for you." And then from across the restaurant, she hollers, "May, come on over here. I got some people just dying to meet you." Right? Does this thing. Honest to goodness, I'm not making this up. So May, I have to tell you, May is the second oldest person I've ever met. May's about this tall. She's got one tooth, right like that. And is there anybody here that's old enough that you saw Laugh In when you were a kid, the TV? And Artie Johnson played this old guy that walked like this, right? Like that across. Remember him, right? That was May. We watched her for 20 minutes coming towards our table. Right? She doing this. And she finally gets there and she says, "How y'all doing today?" And we said, fine. She said, we gave her our order, and she said, "I'm assuming, of course, y'all going to be wanting some of that freshly squeezed Florida orange juice." And then she flashed that tooth at us. Right? And we all, yeah, we'll have some orange juice. She said, "That'd be fine." She said, "I'll be back in a flash." Right? So as May's going off to go flash her customers, we're sitting in a booth. Now you have to picture, we're sitting in a booth that's right by the window, that's right by where the lineup is outside of this Waffle House. So when we were there was like 8 people in line in front of us, and there were 7 of us, so that's 15 people in line. And at one point, I'm watching Luann. I am in love with this woman. I am watching her hooting and hollering and humping up and back and forth and dragging people up for coffee. She is having a ball, and everybody's having a ball with her. And at its peak, there were 25 people in line. Wow. So I got up, and you know how restaurants have those maximum occupancy signs in there? I got up. I went to go look at the occupancy sign of this Waffle House. Maximum occupancy of this Waffle House was 75 people. I thought, man, this restaurant is filled with people. And they have a third of a restaurant in a lineup waiting to get in. Oh, this is a Waffle House. No, seriously, think about that. These people weren't lined up for the food, right? They weren't, that's not that it will kill you or anything, but, they're not lined up for the ambiance, right? Yeah, you know that. And they're not lined up because of the convenience, because you could throw a rock and hit 6 other restaurants. These people were in line for one reason: Luann. And when we finished, I had to make a point. I had to go and talk to her because I was in love. And I came up to her and I said, "Thank you. She said, "You're wonderful." I said, "We stood in our first lineup. We haven't even made it to Disney World yet, and but you're absolutely wonderful." And she just looked at me and said, "So you are very, very kind." She said, "What is your name?" I said, "It's Shaun." Shaun said, "I'm so pleased we're able to make your first day here in Orlando, like a pleasant one." She said, "How long y'all here for?" And I said, "Oh, we're here for 10 days." 10 days? Oh, you're going to love it. There's so much to do. The kids are going to love it. You can do all kinds of things. She said, "So I'm assuming that means we're going to be seeing you tomorrow morning for breakfast." Honest to goodness. She said, and folks, we went there every single morning and stood in line to be with our friend Luann. That was loyalty. This woman just took our hearts. And the cool thing is I got a chance to talk to her. And I thought maybe she owned the place. I've never seen this much passion, this much interest. She's not. She's a retired nurse. She got tired of sitting at home, and she missed people. She said, "I just like people." Really, I'd never have guessed. What hit home for me was this, I had got home, I flew home, and actually had to just sort of literally drive home from the airport and then drive back to the airport to fly out to the West Coast. So off I go now to the West Coast, and one of the things I'm typically too stupid to do, although now I have an assistant that does it for me, but I usually forget to make car reservations. So I'm one of those guys that's standing, like a food court of a mall. I'm standing kind of 10 feet back from the car rental agencies, trying to decide, where am I going to do, who's got the most mileage points, and who's got the best prices, and who has cars available. So I'm standing at this car rental agency. Now, they all have customers. They're all doing a nice job. But as I'm standing there, and there's 2 or 3 other people doing the same thing as me, all of a sudden this thought popped into my head. Can you imagine what Luann would do if she was working behind one of those counters? Can't you just see her standing on the counter saying, "Don't y'all be thinking about going to Avis?" Right? I can see her going, "I got cars. I can have you a car before you can find anything else." I can see her doing that. And then that's when it struck me, is what's the difference between her and me? What's the difference between her and everybody else in the world? What's the difference between her and you? I can tell you one thing, she's no younger than anybody in this room. I can tell you something else, she's no better looking than anybody in this room. What's the difference? Why was she so successful? Because she cares about people. She likes people. She's passionate about people. She knows what it takes to create loyalty. And you create loyalty from people by letting them know you're interested in them, that you care about them, and that they're important to you. That's how we create loyalty. That's how we create it with our members.